Hello and welcome to episode number 279 of Out There TV, and we're definitely not your evening news.
Good evening, everybody. We are ready to rock tonight. David Icke joins us from the Isle of Wight, United Kingdom. Is it UK or England? Is there a difference?
It's England. It's the Isle of Wight, and he told us what that means. We should ask him when he gets on the air.
Something about supernatural.
We have so much news, though, tonight.
Here we go. Let's get right to it. The U.S. House of Representatives has now passed H.R. Bill 1955, titled the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act of 2007. And if you're watching this show here in the U.S., you need to listen to this closely.
If you don't know much about this latest threat to our freedoms, it's because none of the major networks or newspapers want you to know about it. Orders from the White House. But we'll tell you, H.R. 1955 is one of the most blatant attacks against the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in our country's history, and actually defines thought crimes as homegrown terrorism.
When passed into law, it'll also establish a commission called the Center of Excellence to defeat so-called thought criminals. Unlike previous anti-terror legislation, this bill specifically targets the civilian population of the United States, not foreign terrorists, and uses vague language to define homegrown terrorism. Amazingly, 404 of our elected representatives from both the Democratic and Republican parties voted in favor of this bill.
Here are the facts. According to H.R. 1955, anyone who talks about or refers to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights in print or vocally on the street, or mentions the right to bear arms, or talks about freedom of speech, or seeks to advance any political, religious, or social change will now be considered a domestic terrorist under H.R. 1955. The bill, which reads almost word for word from Orwell's book 1984, has already cleared the House and is now on the way to the Senate for final approval. Similar bills have already been passed in the UK, France, and Canada.
Amazing. An ABC poll shows that 70% of Americans are actually willing to accept government spying, believing that it's all about catching terrorists, when nothing could be further from the truth. Since the installation of millions of surveillance cameras across the nation in the last 6 years, not a single one of them has led to the apprehension of a terrorist.
Why? Because there are no terrorists hanging out in the streets of big cities, sipping a latte, eating hot dogs, or reading newspapers in black beards behind dark glasses. It's all a scam. What people fail to realize is that the current surveillance program is a conditioning effect.
And now that surveillance cameras are not finding any unshaven, shifty-eyed, Middle Eastern-looking terrorists toting briefcase nukes, government officials say the cameras on streets and shopping malls, public buildings, and at traffic intersections should instead be used to prevent citizen crime, some even requiring you to identify yourself.
But the bigger question is, why aren't people concerned about the massive increase in secret surveillance? It's because the government has learned from other dictators over the years that if you keep millions of citizens too busy working multiple jobs, paying exorbitant taxes, and trying to make mortgage payments they can't afford, when they flop down on the sofa to the latest brain-numbing reality TV show exhausted, they don't have the energy to do anything about it.
Of course, the real agenda, as set out by those hidden behind the curtain, is the total control and identification of 300 million people here in the U.S. and another 6 billion people planet-wide. And when David Icke joins us on the show in just a few moments, you'll realize how long this Illuminati-created program has been in the works.
Of course, along with surveillance cameras come RFID chips, identity cards, voice scanners, forced vaccinations, mandatory mental health exams for dissenters and liberals, and finally, internment at a KBR work camp if you don't adhere to party lines. So it's not just the millions of spy cams being installed every 30 feet across the country. It's what it's leading to over the months and years ahead while people are not paying attention.
The truth is, surveillance cameras have nothing to do with catching terrorists and everything to do with tracking and keeping secret files about our comings and goings, because knowledge truly is power. Well, the freedom to travel for 200,000 Americans placed on watch and no-fly lists is now being restricted by the Bush-Cheney regime, and that number is growing by the day.
In her new book, The End of America, Naomi Wolf reports that citizens who have simply criticized the president are now banned from airlines, hassled at airports, strip-searched, and even imprisoned. Wolf says that making it more difficult for people who speak out about our government is a classic part of the fascist playbook.
She recalls a personal experience during a pre-boarding search when a TSA agent actually told her she wasn't on a suspected al-Qaeda terrorist list, but she was on a domestic terrorist watch list, consisting of journalists, activists, academics, politicians who have criticized the White House.
The no-fly list has 65,000 names on it, mostly all U.S. citizens. Of course, prior to 9/11, the list had just 16. But within months, thousands of names were quickly entered in the database, many even made up by the government to justify its creation at a cost of $40 million taxpayer dollars.
To date, not a single American citizen, as we say, has been found trying to sneak a bomb into an airplane. Fortunately, they have confiscated hundreds of dangerous baby bottles with mother's milk in them.
Now, we told you this story a few weeks ago and thought we should give you an update. Jock Doubleday, director of the California nonprofit corporation Natural Woman, Natural Man, Inc., has now increased his payout to $100,000 to the first medical doctor or pharmaceutical company CEO who publicly drinks a mixture of standard vaccine additives.
The additives must be exactly the same as those contained in the vaccines recommended for 6-year-olds, according to CDC guidelines adjusted for body weight. Now, the vaccine would have to include all the regular magical ingredients in any vaccine, such as thimerosal, a mercury derivative, ethylene glycol, antifreeze, phenol, a dye, aluminum, benzethonium chloride, and formaldehyde, a preservative and disinfectant. That's what they embalm you with.
Jock Doubleday will continue raising the $100,000 prize money, $5,000 a month, until a medical professional drinks the vaccine ingredients. Remember, these are the same vaccine ingredients being injected into thousands of children and adults every hour of every day. And that same vaccine could soon become mandatory for all Americans under the latest presidential executive orders.
All right, stay with us for 2 minutes as we get this commercial breakdown. When we come back, I want to tell you about a brand new weapon, an ADS microbeam system being unleashed on the American population starting next year. You're watching out there. Don't go away.
If you haven't signed up for the on-demand video service at OutThereTV.com, then you're missing the full story. Watch the latest TV broadcast and gain exclusive access to search over 60 hours of episodes and shocking free documentaries, including The Kill Shot.
Everything you see here will be scrap metal.
Loose Change, Aerosol Attack, and more. Plus, get the latest breaking news, read guest bios, check out the latest featured products, and more. Don't live life in the dark. Get to OutThereTV.com right now and get the information you need to know. Out There TV. It's definitely not your evening news.